Okay, now a little bit on clause elements. So first of all, the subject. One of the things about the subject is that it inverts in yes-no questions. So he can swim, can he swim? He swims every day, does he swim every day? So the does isn't doing anything except just making the question for. The subject agrees with the verbs. That only happens in the present simple tense, so we can't say he swim. Case, some languages have many different forms for their nouns. In English we don't really have cases for our nouns, but we do with pronouns. So we say I like him, not me like he. Phrasal category, what that means is what word class or part of speech is the subject. Well, usually it's a noun phrase, but it can also be a clause. So Trump is hoping to win, the president is hoping to win, he's hoping to win. Okay, noun phrases. But we could also say what he'll do if he doesn't win is anyone's guess. So that first part is the subject, but it's a clause. And it usually comes at the beginning of the clause before the verb. Now, a little detour into subjects, agents, and topics. So, in a straightforward sentence, the cat ate the mouse. The cat is the subject. It's also the agent. It's also the topic. What does that mean? Well, if we make the sentence passive, the mouse was eaten by the cat, the mouse becomes the subject, but the cat remains the agent. So you can see that the agent is to do with the relationship of the noun to the verb. It's the cat that's doing the eating, but subject depends on the syntax of the sentence. Now, the poor mouse, it was eaten by the cat. The poor mouse is the topic, and it comes at the beginning in this case. It is the subject, and the cat is still the agent. So the poor mouse, it was eaten by the cat, is the sort of thing we might say very often in spontaneous speech, but we don't do that very often in writing, unlike other languages, some other languages which are called topic prominent languages. Now, English is subject prominent rather than topic prominent, and here are some examples from students' assignments. From languages, the students come from languages that are topic prominent. So, as for the present participle, normally it's formed by adding ing at the end of the verb. Now, that's fine in speaking, but in writing, especially academic writing, we would prefer to say normally the present participle is formed blah blah blah. For elementary students, they have a basic knowledge of tense and a basic concept of modal verbs. Now, we would prefer to say elementary students have a basic knowledge. So we're not separating the topic and the subject. Concerning Thai grammar, Thai grammars do not have a system of tenses to mark temporal relationships. Again, we would prefer not to have that separate topic at the beginning. Okay, now the object. There are two types of object. First, the direct object, I saw her, and semantically that would be patient rather than agent. But we also have the indirect object. I gave John a biscuit. So John is the indirect object. He's the recipient, if you like, of the biscuit. Now, verbs that take indirect objects are two object verbs. They're sometimes called ditransitive rather than just transitive or monotransitive verbs. So give would be an example of that. We do have a case for objects in the pronouns, I like him. And phrasal category, usually noun phrases, but again can also be clauses. He said something. He said that you were the fastest runner. So again, if you can substitute something like something or someone for a clause, then you can guess that that could work as a subject or object. And objects usually come after the verb. Now a little bit more on indirect objects. So if there are two objects, the indirect object can come first. She gave the monkey a banana. The monkey is the indirect object. But if we change the order, we need to add to or for before the indirect object. She gave a banana to the monkey. And I should note that in some grammar books they only call the first one, the first example, the indirect object. Longer verbs can often only be used with to or for. So try substituting each of these verbs in these two sentences. So for example, we can say, did you bring them that thing? Did you buy them that thing? But it doesn't sound right to say, did you communicate them that thing? We would prefer to say, did you communicate that thing to them? Okay, so if you try, maybe just pause the video and try substituting those verbs in the gaps, you'll notice that the longer ones you prefer to put them in sentence 2. Okay, a little bit more on indirect objects and what's called end weight. So longer indirect objects tend to be put after to or for at the end of the clause. So if you look at these examples, the direct objects in red, the indirect objects in blue, could you pass me the salt, please? We wrote letters to everyone in the class. So everyone in the class is longer, so we would probably say it like this rather than we wrote everyone in the class letters, just because it's longer. Number 3, the man showed Mrs. Weir an old faded photograph of his son. Again, that direct object is very long, so we prefer to put it at the end. He handed a note to one of the guards. We could say he handed one of the guards a note. That's not so long. Now, complement. Complement looks like the object, but it actually tells us about the subject. So if you compare these two sentences, the monkey ate the banana. The monkey and the banana are two completely different things, but the monkey is an intelligent animal. They're the same thing. So the second one is a complement. Another test is whether you can make the sentences passive. So we can say the banana was eaten by the monkey, that's the object, but not an intelligent animal is being a monkey. So we can't make the second one passive. The complement can be a noun phrase, an adjective phrase, or a prepositional phrase. So an intelligent animal, noun phrase. Ill, adjective phrase, the monkey felt ill. Prepositional phrase, you are in danger. Now these are all subject complements, SCs. Object complements can refer to the object. So I consider him an idiot. An idiot relates to the object. John made me angry. Angry refers to me, not to John. So sometimes it's quite difficult to distinguish between object complements and indirect objects. So John made me angry. Complement, I was angry. I consider him an idiot. He's an idiot. But these ones, she gave me a pink ribbon. That doesn't mean I am a pink ribbon. And Jim told John a terrible joke doesn't mean John is a joke. So verbs that take a subject complement are called copular or linking verbs. So the most frequent one is be, but also feel, seem, appear, become, etc. And verbs that take an object complement are called complex transitive verbs. So verbs like make, find, consider, name, not so many of them. Adverbials or adjuncts, and we'll discuss those in more detail later on, but these are mostly optional. They add extra meaning to the clause, and they have very often a flexible word order. So it's a small world after all. After all, it's a small world. It is, after all, a small world. They occur recursively. That means we can use several of them. So after dinner we went by car to the cinema. So after dinner, by car, and to the cinema are all adjuncts. They can take the form of an adverbial phrase, a prepositional phrase, as in to the cinema, a clause, or a noun phrase. Now, distinguishing between adjuncts and complements. Adjuncts are optional, but complements are not. So complements are obligatory and follow copular and complex transitive verbs. So your toast is we need something more on the table, subject complement. The monkey put the banana, we need something more in his pocket, the object complement. Some grammar books call these prepositional phrases obligatory adverbials.